After a short 1 week break, Formula One has once again sprouted up in a new country, this week's victim being, of course, Belgium for the Belgian Grand Prix. The Spa too long of a name circuit is a classic since anyone who has ever driven it, even on the F1 game, know absolutely why. Its corners flow so damn smoothly into one another, and right when you think it's boring, you have a nice straight now to help you. It's beloved by many for this reason, and when it comes to watching it, boy, I bet the racing must be even better with fantastic overtakes and just beautiful to view. And hey, it is beautiful to view, but I wouldn't call the racing here good exactly. Now back then, this was a hell of a circuit since the cars followed so closely and fast too, since the corners allowed for so much speed to be carried through. However, add a little chicane here and there and make the cars a billion more times heavier and uh-oh, this track low-key stinks now. Again, driving is awesome, but there's only 22 F1 drivers on the grid, so we have to watch the official racing and it's just not good anymore. Modern Formula One has almost become incompatible with the Spa circuit, which is probably the reason why it ain't permanent no more. Spa stocks, despite its reputation, have never been lower. However, could that change this year? The 2026 Formula One regulations have breathed new life into many circuits that were once thought to be outdated. Round 1 in Melbourne was actually pretty good without weather or red flags for once. Round 3 in Japan gave us great racing action. Round 7 in Barcelona gave us a stunner as well. Tracks that were thought to be yesterday's news have been given a new life under these new cars, and perhaps Spa could get the same treatment. Well, to be honest, I think it's 50-50. Either this race will be so good with so much action, or this race will be straight line battery slop, and if my instincts were to judge, I honestly think this weekend could be a little bit battery sloppy. By that, I of course mean we will see many overtakes, but it will just mirror the DRS era, except this time with the batteries. Listen, F1, make the batteries into a push-to-pass-S system, and you will be reincarnated as a lotus flower. Anyways, enough mumbo-jumbo about the prospects of the weekend. Let's actually recap it and then discuss the winners and losers from the sessions. Subscribe if you like chocolate, and remember to check out the Crash Happy podcast, where the episode for Belgium may feature a renowned Fortnite skin guest starring. So with that said, let's get to quacking now.
See those clouds up in the corner? That's where the rain is coming from.
Heading into Friday, there really isn't that much to discuss. Since Silverstone, many drivers have become the talk of the town since, when F1 fans are bored, boy do those transfer rumors really start spreading. The drivers in question were mainly Max, Oscar, and Carlos, to which now we may know their fates for next season and potentially future ones as well. Max basically said that he is just fine at Red Bull and would rather sink with the ship than abandon it. Okay. Oscar said that he kind of doesn't care what happens to him and just wanting to live in the present and enjoy its moments. How typical. And not Carlos. Nico Hulkenberg went on interviews and basically said, fuck out of here to Carlos on the prospect of him taking his seat at Audi. So wonderful insight from everybody here. I'm sure this will calm the rumors down and nothing here will age poorly. Take it from me, of course. Other than some drivers expected to take grid penalties as per usual here, nothing much was in the news cycle. So let's just get straight into Friday with FP1 and FP2. Heading to the sessions, many teams brought upgrades here, every team bar Ferrari and Aston of course, so with such a pivotal session, how different are things going to look? Oh, you don't even know it. Mercedes had a difficult time to say the least since they didn't put a single competitive time on the board, so to take their place was of course the one and only team who could challenge Mercedes at this stage, Red Bull in first with Max and fourth with Isak, while the Ferraris were sandwiched in between them. Even when the front runners are removed, Ferrari still find a way to be second. To add to that disappointment, McLaren were also nowhere with Mercedes after both teams brought the most upgrades of the front runners, but skill over spam people since Red Bull brought their upgrades and for now seem to be working to massive effect. Also, they did remove their spinning wing after Max kept their car kept crashing, so that sucks, and I really hope this doesn't mean the FIA may be looking to ban it. Anyways, other things of note in FP1 was Jack Crawford. Remember, he signed a contract with Death since he got some laps in the Aston car, much to his despair, while the usual little run-ins happened here and there. Boy, oh boy, I can't wait for the FP2 session to keep up this trend of weirdness going on, and man does it feel refreshing to finally have a weekend without the expected guys up front. Well, the build-up was there for a reason. Mercedes were back on top in FP2 with Kimi, however, George is still having his struggles. Tell me something new then. But to add to that misery, McLaren also showed up with Merc for a 1-2 of Kimi and Lando. Either way, Red Bull still looked to have taken a step forward, while Ferrari, Whatever, man. I don't even care anymore. Also in this session, Pierre Gasly attempts suicide after learning that he may have his fourth teammate in a matter of 2 years, while more gravel trap shenanigans happen. Overall, a semi-eventful Friday that has me very intrigued to see how Saturday can possibly go. The front running order does seem to be tight, and all I'm saying is, if another non-Mercedes winner will sprout up, this weekend is surely way more set in stone than Silverstone ever was. Also, the weekend is looking pretty battery sloppy. However, we said that about Silverstone, yet the race was still banging, so nothing can be said just yet. Anyways, let us move on to Saturday with FP3 and the big bad qualifying. FP3 time, and if I had a nickel for every time Lewis Hamilton crashed in an FP3 session at Spa, which could affect his qualifying, I would have exactly 2 nickels, which isn't a lot, but it's probably enough for me to stop making this old joke already. Despite the crash though, Lewis was still ahead of Charles in the timings. However, Charles is reporting battery issues, which is just, you know what? I said I didn't care anymore. The rest of the session was quiet though, as no one is pushing or risking anything, mostly no one at least. So let us move on to qualifying, which could actually feature a surprise, I reckon. Q1 begins and nothing happens in it, and as for Q2, the same exact thing, with the drivers being eliminated being the ones you'd expect. Also, Hulk's car blowing up only after getting eliminated. So in Q3, we have all the front runners plus Lindblad and Gabby. So let's see who could get pole position. And boy, is it looking tight. Verstappen sets a stormer of a lap first before Kimi ones up him only slightly, only then for Leclerc to one up Kimi even slightly-er before Lando one ups him even more slightly-er. 4 different cars within 2/10 of each other, with the top 3 within 1/10 all fighting for pole position. It is looking raw as hell, and as we head out for the final runs, who gets it? It's Kimi, bro. The close gaps we saw in the first runs turn into Kimi getting pole position by 3/10 to Max and Lando in third, but he takes a grip penalty, so it's going to be Russell in third. Well, that was a qualifying of all time, so let's see what Sunday can have in store for us in the race. Lap 1 begins, and it's safe to say Kimi is good at starts finally, since he launches well off the line. However, battery slop time, since Max overtakes Kimi through a Rouge, and as we head to the end of the Kemmel Straight, Kimi is back up on Max while George behind does his best Danny Rick impression, but clearly needs to work on it. The safety car is in now, and the race gets underway properly with some good fights here and there. In the battle for third in particular, Piastri attempts to send a move on Leclerc, however, gets the door firmly shut, which led to some contact, and to make matters worse for Ferrari, Lewis gets a flat-out undeserved penalty for the contact with Russell, so at least now we know it's gonna be one of those days. Anyways, the race calms down now, with drivers pumping in lap times, and when it's time to pit, Max pulls the trigger first before Kimi does the same, and as Ferrari nears theirs, VSC is out. There was a VSC because there was some debris and gravel on the track, which is a whole other conversation, but allows Ferrari to get a cheap stop and lose the service penalty without losing too much, only to then nearly kill an engineer, so I don't know if he's cleared just yet. So with everyone now changed, Kimi hunts down Charles in first for the win, and with some 10 laps to go, Kimi pulls up behind Charles on newer tires, and despite that, overtakes him and attempts to open up a gap now, which he does successfully. So as the race ends, Kimi gets his first win since his 5-win streak from Leclerc and Max, who also existed in the race. Overall, a pretty good one, but it's clear the batteries and deployment still need further refinements. Okay, now I can stop caring. Now for the winners and losers, and as always, losers first, and I begin with who else but Aston Martin. Take solace, my fellow green shitbox fans. Next week in Hungary is the end of the end. The B-Spec Aston car obviously comes in Hungary, and I think no matter what, better things will be in store for Aston. Now, will these things be points for Aston or just the confidence they could beat Caddy regularly? I have no clue. However, if I had to guess, I would think that at the very least, Aston shoot up to about where Williams are. They'll be much faster and very able to get into Q2 and maybe obtain points on a good day. However, they will need further development should they actually want to score points regularly and be in the position that Alpine or RB are in. For most teams, that's a simple enough task. However, remember kids, this is Aston we are talking about. I actually wouldn't be surprised if this B-Spec car makes Aston 2 seconds slower instead of faster. But I'm going to hold on to hope and say Aston will finally be much better in Hungary. And no matter what, finally will have their first weekend this season where they won't feature on my losers list. One would hope at least. Next is Esteban Ocon, who, man, I kind of feel bad. I think I'm the only Ocon sympathizer left on the planet since it's just so bleak regarding him. This weekend at Spa was just more disappointment for Ocon, and it's getting really infuriating at this point. In fact, I would recommend to just drop all emotions regarding him because by this stage, it's clear he is gone from the sport next year. Unless he has some massive turnaround, he will be fired, likely announced in the summer break, and the other Haas car will have to be driven by somebody else. And can I blame Haas here? Ocon's weekend at Spa was just the typical bullshit that he's been on all year long. He can't drive the car, he complains on the radio, gets in a minor incident, repeat. In 2025, at least he could score points here and there, but so far this year only has 1 points finished courtesy of Behrman's lively crash. So I guess this is bye-bye for Esteban since surely he doesn't drive in 2027, surely not with weekends like Belgium. Next is Alex Albon, who can we have uncomfortable conversations about? Albon this year has low-key been one of the worst drivers so far. Now, of course, that Williams car is a recycling bin with wheels, but that don't change the fact that Carlos has been ahead of him for a while now, and here at Spa was just outclassed by science. If that Williams car had more points capabilities, I'd have no doubt that Carlos would have the majority of the points, while Alex, dude, will probably be struggling to make it out of Q2. Hell, he's doing that right now, but in Q1, when that Williams car is much faster than the Haas car at this stage. Plus, Albon has been here since 2019, and whereas the other 2019 rookies have found their stride in the sport, Albon honestly hasn't improved since 2023. I do think Williams is probably to blame for this since they haven't progressed much either, but once they do, will Albon be able to keep up? I don't know, and that is bad. So yeah, Alex once again had a pretty bad weekend here, and if his performances don't start to contest Carlos soon, I fear his seat will be on the line very soon. Next is George Russell. I think we keep this short since his problems have been very clear to us. He is just struggling, man. Now, I have seen arguments saying how Kimi has favor in the Mercedes garage, and to that, I say, no shit, dude, he is miles ahead of George on pace. It has been like that since basically round 2, and where that round plus 3 in Japan featured the boys close, every round since 4 in Miami has basically seen Kimi faster, even when both cars are facing no issues. Kimi is generally keeping up and exceeding George, so why wouldn't Merc prioritize him for the driver's title? George must win his favor back, and at the moment is just unable to. This week, of course, saw Kimi doing brilliant things in his car at the front, while George is struggling to keep up with him, let alone the other team's cars. The opportunity of the lifetime opened up with Kimi's DNF in Silverstone, but George has failed to capitalize and DNF'd himself in this one, and I just don't see how he could turn his season around in time. However, most said this about Lando last year, and we all remember Lando's massive lock-in post-summer break, so perhaps a similar fate can happen to George. Don't say it's over until it's over, but it is looking pretty bad. Now for the mid guys of the week, and I begin with Alpine once more. Alpine haven't been caught with their pants down just yet, but keyword is yet. Alpine since Miami have found their B-Spec car to be ultra effective since they have amassed a nice amount of points thanks to it. However, slowly RB have been catching up, and for about a weekend or two have been ahead. Now Alpine were still close enough to fight them, however, not anymore with Lindblad, and once Liam gets those upgrades, then Alpine will be caught with their pants down. They of course can come back with upgrades of their own, which I'm sure they will. However, Alpine have a little bit of a problem when it comes to upgrades. The team generally have been very inefficient this year and do not possess the same resources as RB, which could halt their development while they just carry on. For now they are in mid-tier, but if we rock up to Zandvoort with not much changing, I fear the losers category could call their name soon. Spa was fine for Alpine, but they cannot afford to stay fine while RB start to become really good. Next is Hulkenberg, who we really have to feel for. Now, he did come out in interviews and basically say that Carlos will not be taking his seat. However, why is he so sure? He is facing mountains of issues at Audi, and okay, so is Gabby, but Gabby is able to do more in the car than Hulk is, and when Gabby is some 22 years old while Hulk is pushing 40, hey, I wouldn't blame Audi for shoving him out the way for Carlos or another rookie driver. Hulk this week did fine in the Audi car, however, Gabby easily beat him this week and was fighting for points. How much longer will this dynamic persist until Audi's eventually like, man, just get out? If Hulk can find improvement in his pace, he will be fine, but as it stands, I would not be surprised if Audi don't give Hulk a driver in 2027. It will be harsh, but I understand it is what I'm saying. Finally, I have Ferrari. Ferrari this year is so strange. It seems that no matter what happens to the other teams, Ferrari can never be the fastest ones. Now, they didn't bring upgrades this week while the other three front runners did, but Ferrari were still close enough that they could shake things up front with some good strategy and fast driving. Instead, however, more battery issues for Leclerc and a low confident Lewis Hamilton just led to safe results for Ferrari. Perhaps I am being harsh on them this week, but I still expected more, and if these upgrades don't see us move way more forwards, I may just give up on the season. I don't know. Now for the winners, and let's start with Kimi Antonelli. Let's just keep this short since he is too good. He got pole, he won the race, he was super fast. We know this. Now for the real talk. Nothing is phasing Kimi this year. Where last year he was in his own head about his failures, even if they weren't his fault, this year he takes it on the chin and bounces back even harder. Couple that mentality with some brilliant pace and talent, and my god is this kid so good. He is barely about to be 20 years old too, and I really fear for his competition if he can continue having good cars. There is a reason why Toto rushed him up the ladder, and I think we're all quickly finding out why he did that. Next is Charles Leclerc. Now, I know I put Ferrari in mid tier, but Charles was actually really good once more this week, and hey man, I'm not complaining. I have criticized Charles this year, which means I hate his guts and want him to die apparently, but remember, I am a Ferrari fan. I just expect him to be good and smart, and while the latter is still debatable, he has been great recently and I love it. Nearly winning the race again is obviously not going to warrant a mid-tier placement, so Charles himself gets a big ol' winner's kiss. He displayed some great pace all race long, and while there was that bullshit race decision between him and Piastri, at least he was good enough to alleviate that blip. Let's see how long this form can last now. Next is Red Bull for all the wrong reasons. I say that because in the qualifying, they basically told Isak to go die for Max's sake, and sure, it was for pole position, but the dude still qualified 3/10 behind Kimi, so come on, why kill Isak? Other than that though, Red Bull were much better than I expected. I honestly thought Red Bull were going to be fine, but nothing spectacular this week, yet Max is fighting all race long, and even Isak from 10th was able to float up and not sink. Both drivers have been doing their jobs well this year, and in particular with Isak, I'm really excited to see how he develops since every weekend is just getting better and better. See, Horny, it's not that hard to manage two drivers. Sure, maybe Red Bull could have been a little bit better this week, but considering they removed their spinning wing and arrived at a track where they should have struggled in theory, I actually think their weekend was fantastic, all things considered. Here's to Hungary, since something tells me they may need all the good luck and wishes they could obtain. Editor Doug here. I have just realized that Isak had a grid penalty for the qualifying, so I guess disregard everything I said about that. Next is Lando Norris. Truly, it is such a shame that Lando had to take a grid penalty this week since he was so damn good at Spa. And that upgraded McLaren car, he put it right on its limit that shook the leading guys, and hell, he was a leading guy, I'd say. On pace, of course, since thanks to McLaren's dog shit unreliability, he had to take an engine penalty for this one, and Lord knows where Lando could have actually finished had he not have to take one. Lando this year has been so good, and it saddens me to see his results not reflect this. Winning that title has taken so much pressure off of his shoulders, and it is nice seeing Lando drive at full beans for probably the first time since 2023. Hungary is a track Lando is fond of though, so I believe his pace that he showed this week will replicate there, and heading into next week, hey, who's to say he can't win? Next is RB. RB as of late have been showing up Alpine, and it is nice to see. For the past couple of years, they have had a rough time of it, and while 2025 was pretty good, and 24 to a certain extent, they have been having it rough since 2021. However, now they are returning to that form, and their car with upgrades is looking like a beast. It is genuinely uncontested in the midfield currently, and the only car that can beat it currently is their own. Fortunately, they couldn't see that since Liam didn't get the upgrades. However, he still did good for what it's worth. When both Lindblad and Liam have the upgrades, I fear we will see 2021-esque performances from both of them, and I am very excited to see this. Lindblad especially had a great weekend in the upgraded car since he was stunning at times, and I'm just so excited to see how his future develops as a Red Bull future driver, surely. But finally, I have Gabby Bortoleto. Gabby had a pretty good weekend once more since he was fighting for points and getting into Q3, a rarity for Audi this year. Audi have had many a struggle this year, and I feel for the drivers as it's really 50-50 if they'll do good or DNF, and that's the thing. When they don't have issues, they always do good, but Audi not having an issue in the weekend is like watching the sky turn green. Case in point, this week in Spa. Regardless, Gavi had the blessing of the reliability gods, and with that, he made sure to cherish the opportunity with a good drive that had its sweet rewards. Finally, let's take a look at my predictions from the weekend. My quality predicts were out of order, but contained the right drivers. My race predictions were actually close, minus a Woody, Russell, and Norris. My random prediction was half right, which I mean, can't believe this actually didn't happen. Your predictions were safe and fine, I guess. Whatever happened to vibe-based predictions, man? And finally, my bingo card is without an update. So those were my winners and losers of Spa. Next week, we immediately head to the Hungarian Grand Prix to round out the doubleheader leading to the summer break. That race should be good, but time will only tell if that race can be better than this week's. Anyways, I want to give a quick shout out to all members of the flock for the continued support, and make sure to join off your cool benefits as well as just helping me out. Anyways, if you enjoyed today's video, make sure to like and subscribe since it really helps me out. Make sure to let me know in the comments who your winners and losers are, and as always, have an amazing day.
Good weather for the duck.